What if I told you that in 2026, the most powerful player in women's tennis isn't the one winning the most matches, and the most famous player isn't even ranked in the top 40? Because right now, there are two completely different stories happening in tennis. One is about dominance, the other is about something far more dangerous: power, influence, obsession. And somewhere in between those two worlds, a 20-year-old is quietly rewriting the rules of the sport.
I saw the other day with Alexandra Eala, that's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever, tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's a big interest. So things like that happen. I mean, you could argue that it was, maybe a poor schedule, and maybe they could schedule him on a bigger court. Yes, but again, she's so young and she's just coming through. So and obviously the first couple rounds, the schedule is so packed. The big courts with big names, it's difficult. It's not easy to manage that. But again, it's a good problem to have, to be honest.
This was definitely one of the bigger Filipino turnouts. Also, New York was huge. It was tough because it also depends what court you're on. That you feel the noise and things. I would say the top two so far have been Melbourne and New York.
On one side, you have Aryna Sabalenka, world #1. A player who didn't just reach the top, she took it and refused to let go. For over 80 consecutive weeks, she has held that position. Not by luck, not by momentum, but by force. Her game is brutal. Relentless, explosive. Every shot feels like it's designed to break not just the opponent's defense, but their confidence. In 2026, she did something only the elite of the elite ever achieve. She completed the Sunshine Double, winning Indian Wells and Miami back-to-back. A feat so rare, it instantly places you in history. No debates, no arguments. She is the best player in the world. But then, on the other side, there's a name that shouldn't even be part of this conversation. Ranked world number 45. Below dozens of players most casual fans couldn't name. And yet that's the name people are talking about. Not in whispers, not in predictions, but in sold-out crowds, in viral clips, in emotional reactions that don't make sense on paper. That name is Alexandra Eala. It started with something small, almost forgettable. A journalist asked Sabalenka about Eala, just a simple question. But her reaction, that slight pause, that moment of confusion, it revealed something deeper. Because for the first time, the best player in the world didn't fully understand the most talked-about name in the sport. And that's when the realization hit the tennis world. Dominance and drawing power are no longer the same thing. January 2026, Melbourne, Australian Open, a normal day, a routine practice session, no cameras focused on her, no headlines waiting. Because Alexandra Eala was just a rank 45 player. No security detail, no protection, just another athlete finishing practice. But the moment she stepped off the court, everything changed. A crowd started forming, then growing, then pushing, then surging. Within seconds, it wasn't a crowd anymore, it was chaos. Fans rushed toward her, phones in the air, voices shouting her name. The pressure became unbearable. She was pushed backward until her body hit a concrete wall. No escape, no space to breathe. Her father, her coach, had to physically fight the crowd back, shouting, begging for space, just to get her out safely. Think about that for a second. That is not what happens to a world number 45. That is what happens to an icon. At that exact same time, Sabalenka was doing what she always does. Winning, dominating, executing with precision, while Eala was doing something completely different. She wasn't just playing matches, she was stopping crowds. And in 2026, those two things are no longer connected. Somewhere in early 2026, a phrase started spreading, not officially. Not in headlines, but behind the scenes, among analysts, tournament organizers, media insiders. 5 simple words: fans only pay when Alex plays. That sentence changed everything. Because it revealed a truth tennis was never prepared for. For decades, the biggest star was always the best player. But now, that connection is breaking. Eala's matches are generating something that rankings cannot measure. Ticket demand, crowd energy, broadcast spikes, emotion. At the Miami Open 2026, she reached the round of 16, her prize money, around $15,720. But that number doesn't even begin to capture her real value, because what she generated outside the scoreboard was worth far more. On Instagram, she has over 920,000 followers. But that's not the shocking part. Her engagement rate, between 15% and 20%. In a world where most athletes struggle to hit even a fraction of that, that number is insane. It means people aren't just watching her, they are emotionally invested. And when world number 3 Coco Gauff acknowledged her impact, everything shifted. Because now, it wasn't just fans saying it. The players themselves could see it. To understand this story, you have to go back. March 2025, Miami Open. Eala entered as a wild card, ranked 140 in the world. No expectations, no pressure, no spotlight. And then she did the impossible. She didn't just win matches. She defeated Grand Slam champions. She went on a run that nobody saw coming. Wildcard players don't reach semifinals. They don't shake the system. They don't rewrite narratives, but she did. And in that moment, everything changed. She wasn't just a player anymore. She became something else, something bigger. A symbol. In the Philippines, analysts struggled to explain what was happening. So they reached for the biggest comparison they had. Manny Pacquiao, a global icon, a national hero, one of the greatest fighters in history. And they said, Eala's impact feels similar. That comparison is not normal. It is not casual. It is not something you say about a player ranked 45. But this is not a normal story. Because for millions of people, Eala is not just an athlete. She is identity. She is representation. She is hope. She has already appeared on Vogue. One Philippine Athlete of the Year, carried her nation's flag. These are not the achievements of someone on the rise. These are the marks of someone who has already arrived. And yet she's still fighting for consistency on the court. Behind the spotlight, there's a different story. A quieter one. She admits she sees more negative comments than positive. She scrolls, then skips, avoids, moves on. Because even at 20 years old, she understands something most athletes take years to learn. Fame is not always kind. And that's where the real tension begins. Because while the world is watching her, while crowds are growing, while her influence explodes, her results against top players tell a very different story. Heavy losses, brutal scorelines, questions starting to rise. So now, we're left with one impossible question. Can a player be the biggest star in the sport without being its best competitor? Or is something much bigger about to happen, something that could change everything? For both Alexandra Eala and Aryna Sabalenka, she has the crowds, she has the spotlight. She has the entire nation behind her. But there's one thing she still doesn't fully have: wins at the highest level. And in professional tennis, that changes everything. Because behind the emotional rise, behind the sold-out crowds and viral moments, there's a set of numbers that don't lie. Cold, brutal, unforgiving. Indian Wells 2026. Alexandra Eala steps onto the court. Across the net, Linda Neskova, a rising star, disciplined, precise. The match begins, and within minutes, something feels off. Eala is reacting, not controlling. The rallies are shorter, the errors are heavier. And then the scoreboard reads 6-2, 6-0. No drama, no comeback, no moment, just a reminder of the gap. Dubai, another opportunity, another stage. This time, Coco Gauff, world number 3. One of the fastest, smartest players on tour. Eala fights, you can see it. The effort is there, the belief is there, but belief isn't always enough. The result, 6-0, 6-2. And then Miami Open, the place where her story once exploded into the world. This was supposed to feel different, familiar, comfortable, but across the net, Karolina Machova. Experienced, calm, ruthless, in control. And once again, the scoreboard doesn't lie. 6-2, 6-0, 3 matches, 3 top-level opponents, 3 defeats, and none of them were close. When patterns like this appear, tennis doesn't stay quiet. It remembers, it compares. And one name starts circulating again: Emma Raducanu, a player who once shocked the world, won the US Open. Became a global sensation overnight. But then came the losses, heavy defeats, inconsistency, pressure, expectations that became too heavy, too fast. And suddenly, people start asking the same question again. Is this happening again? But here's what most people are missing. This situation is not the same. Because if you look deeper, really look, the story changes. Every single one of Eala's losses came against top 10 level players, not average competitors, not early round opponents. The absolute elite. She wasn't losing at her level. She was being tested one level above it. And that's a completely different reality. Because there's a difference between being exposed and being outmatched. And right now, Eala isn't being exposed. She's being pushed into a space she hasn't fully grown into yet. But here's the part that changes everything. Despite those losses, despite those scorelines, despite the criticism beginning to rise, the crowds didn't disappear. They didn't shrink. They didn't lose interest, they grew, more people showed up, more people watched, more people cared. Think about that. In professional sports, losing usually costs you attention. But in her case, it's doing the opposite, because her audience is not watching for results. They are watching for her. And that is rare, dangerously rare. This is not normal fandom. This is not casual support. This is emotional investment. Families planning dinners around her match times. People adjusting their schedules just to watch her play. Even analysts started questioning it. Have you ever seen this before? Fans organizing their lives around one player? The answer, almost never, because this isn't just sports anymore. This is identity, connection, representation. And once that kind of bond forms, it doesn't break easily. But with that connection comes something else. Pressure, not the pressure of rankings, not the pressure of points. The pressure of expectation. Millions of people watching you, not just as a player, but as a symbol. And at just 20 years old, that weight is enormous. Andy Roddick, former world #1, a man who has lived through the pressure of this sport, said something that stopped people in their tracks. After speaking with Eala, he admitted, at her age, he could never have handled it the way she is. Think about that. A Grand Slam champion, saying a 20-year-old has more composure than he ever did. That's not praise, that's recognition of something rare, and it didn't stop there. Greg Rusedski, another former top player, saw something deeper. He talked about her movement, her intelligence, her tactical awareness, but most importantly, her mindset. He didn't just believe she could improve. He predicted something bold. She could break into the top 10 this year. And suddenly, the narrative shifts again. From doubt to possibility. From pressure to potential. Then came the moment where everything changed. On a major tennis podcast, 3 experienced professionals sat down and asked a question that no one could ignore anymore. Is Alexandra Eala the biggest draw in women's tennis right now? Not future star. Not promising talent. The biggest draw. Right now, and when that question becomes real, when it's no longer hypothetical, that's when the sport itself has to start paying attention. Because at the same time, Aryna Sabalenka is still doing her job. Winning, dominating, building a legacy. She is everything tennis has always valued. But Eala, she represents something new. Something unpredictable. Something the sport doesn't fully understand yet. And now, these two paths are heading towards something inevitable. A moment where results and popularity will collide. Because the next phase is where everything changes. The clay season, a new surface, a new opportunity, a completely different battlefield, a tournament with no top 10 players, a chance to rise. A window that may never come again. And if she takes it, if she wins, if she proves herself, then the question won't be, is she the biggest draw? It will become, is she about to take over the sport? This is the moment where everything either comes together or completely falls apart. Because hype, attention, crowds, they can only carry you so far. At some point, you have to win. And for Alexandra Eala, that moment has finally arrived. The 2026 clay season didn't just begin. It opened a door, a very specific, very rare opportunity. Because of how the WTA calendar is structured, something unusual happened. The top players were concentrated somewhere else. And Eala, she found herself in a completely different lane. The Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open, April 2026. For the first time in decades, this tournament looked different. No top 10 players. No overwhelming favorites. No impossible matchups waiting in early rounds, just opportunity. And for a player in her position, that's everything. This wasn't just another event. This was history. The Linz Open, a tournament that had existed since 1987, had never been played on clay. Legends had walked through it. Champions had lifted trophies. Names like Lindsay Davenport, Justine Henin, Maria Sharapova, but none of them had ever played it like this. 2026 was the first time, a completely new surface, a completely new dynamic. Which means everyone was adjusting, not just her. And in that chaos, there's always one player who rises faster than the rest. Because behind all the emotion, all the hype, there's still one system that controls everything, ranking points. And right now, Eala has something extremely rare. She has very little to lose. Only 70 points to defend before Roland Garros. That means every win, every round, every step forward pushes her higher. Fast, a deep run here could change everything. Top 30. Seeding at a Grand Slam, a completely different position in the draw, and once that happens, the entire equation shifts. But opportunity alone is never enough, because clay is a different world. Slower rallies, longer points. More patience, more intelligence. You can't rush clay, you have to understand it. And that's why, before stepping into this moment, she went somewhere specific. The Rafa Nadal Academy, a place built on discipline, on repetition, on mastering the hardest surfaces in tennis. That's where she trained, that's where she adjusted. That's where she prepared for the biggest test of her career so far, because this isn't just about playing matches anymore. This is about transformation, because Linz is only the beginning. After that, the level rises again. Stuttgart qualifiers, Madrid Open. And then the biggest clay stage of all, Roland Garros, and here's where things get serious. If she arrives there, as a seeded player with her crowds, her momentum, her growing influence, then something historic could happen. Because now she wouldn't just be a story. She would be a contender. But beneath all of this, there's a deeper conflict. Two identities colliding inside one player. On one side, a global icon, a national symbol, a cultural phenomenon. On the other, a young athlete, still learning, still growing, still fighting for consistency. And balancing those two worlds is one of the hardest things in sports, because fame demands perfection. But growth requires failure, and right now she's living in both. Meanwhile, Aryna Sabalenka continues forward, winning, dominating. Proving over and over again that she is still the best player in the world. There's no debate there. But the real question is no longer about who's better, it's about something much bigger. What defines the future of tennis? Is it dominance or connection? Is it winning matches or owning the moment? Because for the first time in a long time, those two things belong to different players. And now the clay courts are waiting, a new surface, a new chapter. A new version of her story about to be written. She's already proven that she can capture attention. Now she has to prove that she can control it. Because if she wins, if she breaks through, if she turns belief into results, then this isn't just a rise anymore, it's a takeover. Nobody is questioning that Aryna Sabalenka is the best player in the world right now. But the question that remains, the one nobody can answer yet, is this. Will 2026 be remembered as the year Alexandra Eala became the biggest star in tennis? Or the year she became something even more dangerous, a champion? If there's one thing this story proves, it's that tennis is changing, right in front of us. Because for years, we believed greatness was simple. You win, you dominate, you become the face of the sport. But now, that story is evolving. Because somewhere between the trophies and the crowds, between the rankings and the reality, a new kind of star is being created. One that people don't just watch, but feel. Aryna Sabalenka has already proven she's the best. That's not a question anymore. But Alexandra Eala, she's proving something completely different. That in modern sports, connection can be just as powerful as dominance. And maybe, just maybe, the future of tennis belongs to the player who can master both. So the only question left is, when that moment comes, will she be ready? If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because the next chapter of this story is going to be even bigger. And trust me, you don't want to miss it.